Elk Season Podcast. This is Elk Season Podcast number 11, dedicated to archery elk, the greatest outdoor sport in North America, and according to an article I read this week, the third greatest outdoor sport in the entire world.
Awesome. And this podcast goes to 11.
It is. It's podcast number 11. A lot of people don't get that reference, unfortunately.
It's okay.
But
look it up.
Elk hunters will. I am your host. I am Harold Chambers. Actually, I'm a co-host with my brother.
And I'm the other host,
That's him.
David.
I point this way or this way? I think that's him. If you're on screen next to me. All right.
You'll never know unless we get a third view, and we're just not going to do it. Okay.
we got a full plate. We got a full plate today. What are we talking about?
We have some announcements. You didn't tell me what your announcements are.
They're the same as last week.
Oh, okay. Oh, well then.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Conservation news.
Yes.
And so there's quite a bit of stuff going on in conservation. Always, it's a ongoing.
Yeah.
What would you just?
It's a continuing story.
Yeah, it's just there's always something popping up there. Destination Elk is coming up. They're still releasing stuff, but they're getting close to the end of their 8 days, and I don't know what else they have left.
Well, they got 6 tags, right?
Yeah. Immortal Irishman.
The Immortal Irishman is a book I read. It involves out west. It involves Idaho. It involves Montana. It involves the most Irish town in America. Butte, Montana. It is not Boston. It's not Boston, Mass. The most Irish town per capita in the country is Butte, Montana.
Huh. We'll hear
Anyways.
your substantial claims require substantial evidence, so we'll hear what you have
You bet.
to provide for that.
I got it.
And then
You bet.
Depending on time, trail tales or however you want to put it.
Yeah, trails. I call it Tales from the Game Trail or Stories from the Game Trail is what I called it. Now I'm calling it Tales for some reason. It'll probably morph into something.
Trail tales. It rolls off the tongue, man. And it sounds like we're in the 5th grade, but it works.
Well, because we kind of are. Well, that's my maturity level. So announcements, real quick. I want people to be paying attention to the Elk Season brand on YouTube and TikTok and Buzzsprout, and we'll try to get the podcast up in some other places very soon. It's only episode 11, but we want to. I want to take my 5-year-old elk hunting at some level. Whether we base camp and just hike 500 yards in.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Exposure.
Get them out there. Teach them to call. Have a little bit of fun. Make sure we have a good adventure with Dad. I did something bad with one of my other kids. He was 11 or 12 at the time.
I remember.
We went to place a game trail camera, and I'm dead set on getting this camera up there. And it's June.
And you got a rookie with you.
And it snowed.
Oh my gosh, I remember.
And it was dumping snow on us. And in retrospect, you don't need to put cameras out in June.
Not necessarily, no.
Because every time we go put our cameras up high in June, game doesn't show up until August anyway.
Well,
it really doesn't. You know that, right?
Well, yes and no.
I mean, 90% of the pictures are coming from where we see them in elk season.
Well, yes, because their habits change dramatically during that time of year.
Yeah.
I guess I just don't want to disqualify the importance of doing those things earlier in the year because you still get out and you become familiar with your area. You have a chance to we see elk when we're out in the spring. So it's just the places that we put cameras, they're not as frequented, but we saw them. Like those bulls that we saw, in velvet, and they were just laying down on that hillside.
If I have an opportunity to get out and place a trail cam high for elk season, I will, knowing that it probably won't pick anything up until August.
True. I mean, again, you don't have to put the camera out, I guess.
But I want to see everything that's up there for every minute of every year, because I want to know.
Because you got some bear pictures.
I know. I love all the pictures. I would love to get some good wolves. I've never got wolves on my trail cams. Bummer. So that's one announcement. I will be taking my 5-year-old. I will also be taking a rookie out. A rookie who doesn't even have a bow license yet. But I've been backpacking with him, and he just needs somebody to go with him. He just needs to apprentice a little bit. So I'm going to do that. Also, I have already staked out a location for my what's it called? A scouting report. I want to create a scouting report for somebody who's going to come out west and hunt in Idaho this year. And so I'm going to go out and put some trail cams up. I will have an announcement when I finally I'm planning that hike. I'm planning that outing. When I finally do that, I will get some video from that hike and make sure and show it on my TikTok and get it on our YouTube channel. Say, hey, this is the actual scouting report. This is a portion of the scouting report. I'll give you everything, almost everything, except the GPS location of the trail cams. Right? This is what the trail looks like. This is what the trees look like.
Sure.
Yeah. So anyways, if you're coming out west, if you're coming out west and you want to hunt and you want a free scouting report, that's an announcement. Those are my standard announcements so far. Is be on the watch out for my 5-year-old, and because we all got to be. And then the rookie hunter.
That hit me late. I don't know why.
Because he's 5. He's just like ah. And also a scouting report. Yeah. So that being said, let's jump right into conservation news. There's a lot going on every week in conservation, and I like to talk about it. I find the stories that interest me. So
I got to do a better job because I'll send you a text or something with an image, and I need you to just load it.
Just throw it in there.
I don't know why I don't think to do that. So
I take a pic of my phone and I save it in photos, and then I move on with my life because I'm busy. And come Sunday morning, I'm like, oh yeah, I got some photos in here.
Yeah. So our first out of the gate, we have, and I think this is really kind of cool. Once I got context, you kind of reminded me, hey, buddy, this might be archaeology, but it's very important to what we're talking about in this podcast, and that is archaeologists and other experts are still working to uncover more details about this bow, 460-year-old hunting bow discovered underwater in an Alaskan lake.
Yeah.
That's intriguing.
So we find relics like the arrowheads, but those are stones. Those last almost indefinitely.
Yeah.
But a bow made of wood needs a super low oxygen environment to survive, and dropping it in the water helped preserve it.
And in a cold place too, because not that this loosely related, that ship that they found from that
Shackleton ship, the Endeavor. I've read books about that.
Yeah,
I could talk about that for hours. That is a fascinating story.
Yeah, so the ship
is a great story. I know that hit my news alert, and it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, they found Shackleton's ship because they reference. Get me going on Shackleton.
Sorry, I said anything.
Yeah, you are. Anyway, very exciting that they found that ship. Have you seen pictures of it underwater?
It's
like fully intact. They're gonna raise it, and we're gonna be able to visit it somewhere.
Hopefully, it's
big news. It was really big news. I'm a little too excited about Shackleton's ship.
So I just realized that I mislabeled something. I figured it out. I got it. I labeled something 4 when it should have been number 2. So we're okay.
Okay.
Anyway, but Shackleton's ship and having that bow preserved, it's just the analogy. So that ship could last up to 460 years.
Yeah.
And still probably look pretty well because of where it was and the way it was cold and the way that microbes don't live in that cold water the way they do in the Southern Ocean. So just something else.
It's a really rare treat to look 460 years back at a bow.
Yeah.
And we talked that archery elk is the greatest outdoor sport in all of North America, but it wasn't always the greatest outdoor sport in North America. And some of these guys that lived 460 years ago, there weren't mammoths around then.
No.
But hunting meant something so different 460 years ago. So different. It was not sport. Every day was life and death.
Yeah.
And to see a bow, you think, look at my modern contraption.
Yeah.
It is a marvel of technology.
And you could argue that it's no more or less lethal than bows of the past.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Really. And if I was really dedicated, I would have one of those short bows. And I've seen stories on bows too where they're like, hey, this bow pulls 180 pounds.
Yeah.
No soldier could pull it.
Huh.
You're like, so anyways, that's what they say. No soldier could pull it. But They did.
Yeah.
They did. They built their muscles up.
Yeah.
That's the only weapon you have. You build your muscles up until you have
The
enough
strength to do it. Yeah.
When I read a book called Little Big Man. It was allegedly a true story. You ever heard of it?
I think so. We
Dustin
probably talked about
Hoffman.
it.
Dustin Hoffman played Little Big Man in the movie Little Big Man.
I was a colleague of mine told me to watch this movie, like 1970 something.
Way back.
Yeah,
way back.
Yeah,
but the book was off the charts, and it was very typical of what happened back then. If you're captured by the Native Americans and you're a child, you're just taken as like a slave or a worker. But he lived in this very pivotal time. He's like the Forrest Gump of the Old West. If you watch that movie, he's like every pivotal event that happened in the Old West, Little Big Man claims he was there.
Huh.
So it's a fantastic story. But he talked about wrestling an Indian. It's a Native American who had spent his life on the back of a horse without a saddle. And he says those guys' legs could squeeze the wind out of you like nothing else. You have to hang onto a horse with your legs while shooting a bow.
Yeah.
You're gonna wrestle that guy?
Nah.
You're gonna throw elbows with a guy who pulls a 180-pound bow?
I'm out.
Nah,
I'm
you're
out.
not. You're soft. We're all soft. It's the 21st century.
All right, second story here. We have New Mexico elk hunts, unit-wide or private land, archery or rifle, guaranteed tags. Guaranteed. Let me reframe.
Yeah, please.
Guaranteed tags.
Guaranteed elk tags in New Mexico. You might have to, I don't know, you got to get into their reg book and play the reg book game, but you start cross-referencing and looking at what you can do and what you can buy. Hey, there are archery elk tags available with, it says it's a draw. You have to put in for a draw, but basically it's 100% guarantee. And there's a lot of those. There's a lot of those all over the West.
Okay.
Where it says there's a limited amount of draw and not enough people put in because it's so remote. It's so hard to get to. Hey, if you got a pair big enough swinging, baby, you can hunt elk. That's the takeaway.
Nice. And I'm sort of taken in by this image here.
Was a big bull elk?
Just a dead elk, something I haven't seen. Anyway,
we've seen plenty of carcasses.
Yeah, true. The third one is just 3 elk.
Oh yeah,
big. So tell me more. You
so
know
this,
more
yeah, this was it. Just the story says, you'll see on YouTube. It just says, hold on a second. I want to take a sip of my Guinness. It's St. Patrick's week this week, and you loaded up with a bunch of Guinness. I wanted to bring some Guinness over. You're almost done already. He drinks beer so much faster than I do. Anyway,
it's a bad habit. I'm working on it.
I know.
That's why I limit myself to one at a time when I'm actually gonna have something to drink.
Oh, something about a Guinness. You can just gulp it. And it's so refreshing.
You can eat it with a fork. It's pretty thick.
It's good stuff. Anyway, more about Guinness and St. Patrick's Day later when we talk about Timothy Egan and the Immortal Irishman. Anyway, so number 3, this is it. This is I found an article, and what's an article? It's somebody's opinion. Great. It said these are the best big game hunting species, or the toughest big game hunting species to hunt in the world, in all of the world. And at number 3 is elk.
Elk is number 3.
So I say the archery elk is the greatest outdoor sport in North America. And I absolutely believe it. I don't know about other outdoor sports in Australia or South America or Africa. I really don't know how difficult those species are to hunt. Number 2 on that list was a mountain goat.
Interesting.
And I don't include mountain goat as one of the greatest outdoor sports in North America because not everyone can participate.
Yeah.
Not everybody who wants to participate can participate in mountain goats. And the other one was, like a kudzu over in in Africa. I don't know what it was, but it's like, not everybody can afford to just go and hunt that. So it's just not accessible. One of the things I love about archery elk is that it's so accessible to so many Americans.
Yeah.
Guys drive. You watch YouTube. pull up just about any YouTube, and you will see guys who have driven 15, 20 plus hours to get to their elk spot and their destination elk. Okay, to get to their elk destination. And it's just so accessible. So that's really what I love about archery elk is it's accessible to everybody. There is a 90% chance of failure for any given individual sportsman, which means any given individual day, you got a 99% chance of failure at least, and you have to head out with 100% confidence.
Yeah.
Every day. It's wild.
Which was a theme of what we talked about last week.
Yeah.
It's you wake up in the morning, it's 100% confidence until the end of the day when it's. But it's funny though. It's like gold fever. You know, if you've meddled in prospecting for gold, which we have.
Yes, many.
And if it gets you, you're 100% confident that you're going to find gold every time you put your shovel in the dirt.
Yep.
Of course, there are those of us that are a little bit wiser, at least than me, because they recognize there's a much more savvy way to go about it.
Yeah.
But
you got to move a lot of dirt.
Yeah.
A lot of dirt.
But it's fun nonetheless. And elk hunting is that way. It's the same kind of idea. It's the elk fever, if you will.
I'm not hunting for food. Will I eat the elk? Yeah. But if I had to hunt for food, I would starve to death, or I'd be a better hunter.
Mm-hmm.
This is a sport. It is it is a great sport, and I love to do it. That's why I do it. And when I go look for gold. Yeah, I know I'm not getting rich. I think I'm getting rich. I'm 100% confident I'll get rich, but just finding one little picker, something nice to show off. Man, it's good as an elk tooth. Almost. If I can find a piece of gold as big as an elk tooth.
Let's head north to Montana here. Bozeman Daily Chronicle talks about the gray wolf recovery in Yellowstone being hailed as one of the world's greatest conservation successes, probably next to bald eagles, I would imagine.
Yeah. And you know how the bald eagle thing came about?
I don't remember.
We stopped using DDT.
Oh yeah, okay.
We stopped using pesticides, and we stopped using particular pesticides
that would bioaccumulate, that would cause the eagles.
Yeah. You kill 10,000 bugs, and these bugs get eaten by 5,000 rats, and then 5,000 rats get eaten by 4 bald eagles or whatever, and it really accumulates, and it was causing problems in the hatch. And now there's a lot of bald eagles, a lot more bald eagles. So it's a great conservation recovery story. And the wolf recovery is something that we talk about a lot here on the Elk Season Podcast. The one thing I wanted to say about this story was, look at those people lined up. Look at the photograph. Just look at them.
They're all phone scoping.
They're all phone scoping. They're just lined up. And $10 says they're in Yellowstone.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, $50 says they're in Yellowstone. Taking phone scope video of wolves in Yellowstone is like taking pictures of baby animals at the zoo. Right? You ever see baby animal pictures? Like every year National Geographic is like, oh, the baby pictures, let's celebrate. This picture was taken at a zoo. That's sad.
Yeah.
That immediately makes me sad. The photographers suck so much you can't get out in the wild and really see what wolves are doing. You got to go to Yellowstone. Somebody shows me a picture of a big bull in Yellowstone. Oh my, I'm rolling my eyes.
Yeah.
Good for you, buddy. Oh, would you see that elk? You can drive up to Ketchum right now. 90 minutes away.
Oh, yeah.
Drive through some neighborhoods and see some nice elk.
I used to drive through Ketchum for a job I worked in. There was, I'm trying to think of the location. Of course, anybody listening has no reference, but you would. So as you...
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So as you come through, there's that stoplight right before Ketchum. So not at the hospital.
Right, just right past the airport. No, okay,
no.
You're talking... Okay, I got you.
You're much farther north than the airport.
Yeah.
So
by the ski hill. Just past the ski hill.
No. So,
yes, it is. Yes, it is. The Sun Valley Company.
Anyway, we'd come around this curve on the way up, and it'd be about 4, maybe 2 or 3 miles just south of the hospital.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
And so there's a mountain. So there's a crossroad there, and then there's a mountain. And we would get up there early enough to do our work, but we'd be driving by and you'd see a herd of elk coming down to bed in the trees right there. Now that's the sawtooth zone.
Right.
But what was I going to say?
Across the highway is the pioneer zone.
Right. But there was a burn up there, and so they would come down and get cover underneath these pine trees that are there. But when it burned a few years back, I would imagine they're probably not doing that as much. But we've nearly hit elk on our way to hunt elk as we travel north. Sometimes.
Yeah, you got to watch out. They actually have you have to drive 45 miles an hour at night. It's 55 during the day, 45 at night.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to react quickly to those animals. Those animals are big. They can't move very quick.
And there's a place where they cross over up there just north of Haley. And there's the big white fences, and you'll catch them, the herds just jumping over these fences, and they're just hanging out there. Yeah. I see elk there.
Something I noticed early in my elk observation life is elk are beautiful and majestic, and when they run, their big mane floats and sways, and when they got to jump a fence, they look awkward as hell. They like glump. Oh. There, I jumped the fence, and then they're back strutting with their necks up high.
Yeah,
but they're big animals, and when they go over a fence, it's not graceful. To me, when you see a whitetail or a mule deer bounding over a fence, you're like, oh, look at that animal. An elk, ugh, buddy, you don't have a mirror, and it's a good thing.
So a little farther north, staying in Montana, this comes out of Missoula. Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and its partners allocated $4.5 million in grant funding for habitat enhancement, hunting heritage projects in California. So even though it's about California, but it just came from
right. Well, the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation is based in Missoula.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was started by some guys who lived outside of Missoula.
And I call myself an elk hunter.
The RMEF it's a great place. It's in Missoula, Montana. That's why the official beer of elk season is from the Kettle House Brewery.
Moose Drool? No, I'm just kidding.
Cold Smoke.
Oh, I've
talked about Cold Smoke. Well, you can't buy it down here, but anytime I do see it, I'm like, I grab 3 or 4 of them. 3 or 4 of the little 4-packs. I love the Cold Smoke. It has a very similar flavor to the Guinness.
Okay.
It's a rich, dark beer. It's perfect for the fall, perfect for elk season, and it's right out of Missoula. Anyway, this episode of the Elk Season Podcast is brought to you by Cold Smoke.
Delicious.
It's got a cool name. Like I want to be in a garage.
I don't know why.
Cold Smoke.
I don't know why I can't remember that beer. I'm sure I've had it. I'm sure
I've given you some.
Yeah.
Just all right. So the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation in Missoula is looking at Rocky Mountain elk habitat and conservation throughout the West and actually throughout the country. But part of what they're doing is helping California rebound. California should have a pretty good population of elk, and they're Thule elk. Am I saying that right?
Thule elk.
I think that's what it's called. It's there's the Roosevelt elk on the coast, and there's the Rocky Mountain elk in the Intermountain Northwest, and I think there's this Thule elk. I really don't know. I should probably I'll keep talking.
Yeah,
like I know everything. Yeah, all right.
No, it's not that you know. You're
why stop now?
You're outing yourself as you're not sure. So that's the onus is on you folks to fact check him because he already knows he may or may not be leaning on the right name here. So you can't beat us up in the comments.
I think it's just
I dare you to comment. Anyway.
Thank you. Yeah. It's just a subspecies of elk called the Thule elk. But they're working on habitat and improving things in California. Yay. That's great. It's a big pile of money too. Mm-hmm. $4.5 million. Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, I think, gave just less than $500,000, but they were able to use that to leverage other donations and other programs, other government donations. Like the government will say, well, if you want to give money, we'll give some money too. So anyways, they were able to leverage that money into $4.5 million of elk conservation in California. So I don't know that we'll be able to hunt elk in California. I don't think you can hunt anything in California. I'm kidding. I know that they do.
I dare you to comment.
Do you remember K-Dog?
K-Dog, yes, I remember K-Dog.
So K-Dog's from Cali, man.
Okay.
He's killed elk up here with a bow.
Nice.
But
yeah.
And his family's from California, and they hunted deer down there.
I remember you telling me a story about him coming across a nice old big bull bedded down.
Yes.
And got him.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, my luck is different in life. Anyway.
He just knew, hey, there could be an elk bedded down, and he just tiptoed through some aspens with an arrow knocked.
Yeah. And
when it stood up, he got him. So he got lucky. And every time I see him, I've been sturgeon fishing with this guy, and every time I see K-Dog, I'm like, let's talk elk, man. That's what I want to talk about with everybody. And he told me a story that he tried to go deep into the wilderness with some horses and some donkeys. And he says, man, never again. This is one of the things, you see the goats, you see pack goats. Those are awesome. The llamas look pretty chill.
Yeah.
I've seen trouble with horses. Mules are better. Mules are less skittish and a little more sure-footed.
Okay.
But he says, man, he had these mules, and one of them didn't want to cooperate, and it ran off, and they tried to chase it. They tried to find it. And how much work do you put in chasing a mule up and down a mountain?
Yeah.
And they go, screw it. I hope the lions get them. They left the pack on the mule. They just left.
Oh, goodness.
I know. Don't worry. It has a happy ending. The mule showed up at camp. Right? But what a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
I just want to take everything I need to live on my back without having to deal with another frickin' animal. What a pain. Especially if you don't know them and you're not familiar with animals.
You found a new pack yet?
It's in my cart. It's in my Amazon shopping cart.
We'll take it. Sold.
Okay.
Vermont will issue 100 moose tags this fall due to a tick problem.
Yeah. So this is kind of a big surprise for me for a couple reasons. Are moose protected in Vermont? Is it 100 more moose tags or just 100 moose tags?
Yeah, it's a good point.
So
question.
And I don't know, but they're talking about the tick problem, which is a very serious problem, serious problem on the east coast, in the Appalachian states, and that is some of these. I don't know if they have the statistics in that story of how many ticks are on a moose. For some reason, ticks really like moose. And they do really well with moose. Moose move slow enough, I guess. Don't scratch themselves on tree. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Moose have a lot of ticks, and if you kill one moose, you're killing 80,000 ticks.
Wow.
I mean, it's some ridiculous number like that. And so, once again, we're here at balancing the ecosystem with its human populations and understanding the tick population and the moose population. And so, yeah, and then you got to be careful now hunting moose if you're in, was it Vermont, New Hampshire?
Vermont. Yeah.
Vermont. You got to be careful hunting moose. What do? Do you spray the whole thing down with a can of Raid?
Maybe.
That's what I talked to some trappers, and that's what they do.
Wow.
Because you can still get bubonic plague from fleas.
Yeah.
And it happens once in a while, but
not to mention Lyme disease.
Lyme disease, I don't think it's in Idaho yet. I haven't heard of it in Idaho.
But it tends to be associated with ticks.
But associated with ticks. And so these trappers would just take a plastic bag and just put the animal in a plastic bag and fill it full of Black Flag or Raid or something. And just, that would kill everything in there.
Yeah.
So, and then they would just, it was all like, like sex during the 80s. Just use protection, you'll be fine. Sorry, it's an AIDS thing.
Yeah, no,
it was as long as you understand it well enough, you'll be fine. No need to panic.
Blah, blah, blah. Where am I at? Let's talk about Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. Multi-year targeted elk brucellosis surveillance project.
Yeah, brucellosis is a big deal. What they worry about is it getting in, not to the elk population, but the domestic cattle population. So brucellosis is, I think, a respiratory disease, and it's indigenous to buffalo. And so the buffalo can spread it.
Elk and buffalo tend to be the
Is it
top,
elk and buffalo?
Yeah, elk and buffalo. In fact, some of the arguments for ranchers not wanting buffalo out of Yellowstone parks because of brucellosis.
Yes.
But brucellosis can be carried by the elk, and so it seems definitely have two different animals with two different types of behaviors. No, it's just kind of one of those interesting things. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here in terms of where that article took, but
well, so that's part of the article. The elk population in the Tobacco Root Mountains. Man, let me tell you something about the Tobacco Root Mountains. Oh man, do you know what mountain range I'm talking about?
No.
If you come to the family camp out this summer,
gotcha. Okay.
If you do, we can bypass Helena. We can go up to Dillon and through Three Forks and through Townsend and go around that way. But the road, if you drive up I-15 north out of Idaho Falls, you get to the biggest town with a real, with a McDonald's, would be Dillon, Montana, and it's about 90 minutes, 2 hours past the border. And instead of staying on I-15 going north towards Butte, you would stay on the highway and go towards a place called Twin Bridges. And at Twin Bridges, you'd turn and get towards Whitehall.
Okay.
And if I could retire anywhere in this world, it would be Twin Bridges, Montana. Looking into those Tobacco Root Mountains. We came out of Yellowstone. We had a family trip to Yellowstone many years ago. And when we drove out that route. And there were clouds low in the valley. You could still see the mountains above the clouds. You could still see the clouds. It was raining. It was green. It was lush. And it was so unpopulated. The town of Twin Bridges has a blinking sign.
Nice.
And it's been blinking there for, 30 years. But it hasn't grown much. It's just a beautiful place. Cool. So Twin Bridges. Whitehall's a little bit closer, I think, to Interstate 84.
Okay.
That runs east and west towards Bozeman and Billings. But the Tobacco Root Mountains, just
makes me wonder if
range.
I wasn't paying attention, because we went to Yellowstone in 2018.
Yeah.
And we drove out the north entrance to Bozeman, but when we came south, we hit the West Yellowstone Road on the far edge of the park. So you actually enter the park, but there's no gates or anything, and it's just that.
Yes.
So is that somewhere proximal? Okay.
Nope.
So never mind.
Nope. So there's mountain ranges all over. The greater Yellowstone ecosystem is just this huge place, and then you go over one valley, and that's where West Yellowstone is. You go over another valley, and that's where Island Park is.
Yeah.
Then you go over another valley, and now you're in Whitehall.
Gotcha.
So you're separating yourself of a couple mountain ranges from the clot of people that infect Yellowstone.
But South Central Montana is not a place I've spent a lot of time at.
Yeah.
But the few times that I've been there, and we're talking Bozeman and the greater area, the Sweetgrass or Sweetwater, Stillwater? No, anyway.
It could be Sweetwater or Sweetgrass.
Anyway, I forget. But
the crazy mountains are up there.
All I know is it's a place I need to spend more time at.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a gem of a. I don't know. Every valley that I've driven through, just I want to live there. I want to live there. Anyway.
I remember driving through Twin Bridges, and looking at the Tobacco Root Mountains with Mom and Dad when we came down to see Grandpa.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if the interstate was done back then. I'd have to look at the dates, but sometimes they go, the speed limit's 55. You either take the interstate or you take the scenic route.
Yeah.
Back then, it was all 55.
Yeah.
And so, we'll just take the scenic route. It'll be okay. It was an all-day trip though, getting to Grandpa's. Now it's a hefty afternoon.
Yeah. No, I've done it. I've done an afternoon. I've been. What did I say? I left Missoula at noon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And parked my car in Shoshone at 6.
Yeah. It's a hefty afternoon is all.
Okay.
So anyway, good time. The Tobacco Root Mountains are beautiful.
New report by Sportsman's Alliance shows hunters and recreational shooters contributed $149. Wait for it.
Mm-hmm.
$1 billion to national.
$149 billion
to national economy. Supported nearly 970,000 jobs. created more than $45 billion in wages and income.
Yeah. So what happened to the other $70 billion? I
don't know.
Just kidding. It went to China. I don't know. No, the sportsmen contribute. That's the takeaway from this story is us collectively,
Yes.
sportsmen as a group, have an incredible voice in our dollars. And a lot more elected officials need to take notice of that. I think the companies are already taking notice of that, but really elected officials and policymakers need to understand the voice that we have as hunters, as conservationists, as people who want to continue to partake in the greatest outdoor sport in North America, archery elk. There we go.
Awesome.
That's a good one. Tie that up with a little bow.
I don't know. I've always wanted to go to Colorado, but
Yeah.
if this is the headline coming out of Colorado, I don't know that I'll go outdoors because it's becoming a theme in Colorado where a man has been attacked by a mountain lion
Yeah.
on his front porch.
Yeah, so the front porch mountain lion. Yeah, the other one was a guy. It was a mountain lion eating an elk
Yeah.
on his front
Yeah.
porch. But this seems to be a habit.
Yeah.
Now that the wolves are in, the wolves are coming into Colorado. It's going to change the dynamic.
Because predators put pressure on other
Yeah.
predators, and it's
Yes,
an
big
important
time.
balance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it'll thin the elk out. It'll keep the elk moving a little bit more. Some of these, I can't wait. You think guys with phone scope lined up in Yellowstone is a deal? Man, wait. There's a lot of good roads in Colorado, and you can get some. There's going to be some really good footage of some really big packs coming out of Colorado because there's a lot of elk in Colorado.
Nice.
More elk in Colorado than Idaho
That's-
and Montana put together.
Heard that somewhere before.
I
Maybe on this podcast.
I
previous
say it
episodes.
a lot. I say it a lot because it means something
Yeah.
to me.
Apparently, we're not the only ones that can get infectious diseases. This is a storyline that's come out actually in the last year and a half, as we've seen in deer populations. Deer, particularly in the Midwest, having high rates of COVID.
Yeah.
And so researchers are finding a stunning rate. So it's an ongoing observation of COVID among deer. What does
Yeah.
that mean for humans? Well, I think there are some interesting implications. And it's not just COVID. It'd be any infectious disease that can be transmissible from humans to animals of any sort.
Yeah.
You know, I thought twice about my pets for a while. Because, the cats can get COVID or the dog can get COVID. And I'm like, But
Yeah.
needless to say,
It's an ongoing story. This is to be continued. So we're seeing this in the human population. We've seen it go through cats and dogs and in some horses, and now we're seeing it in wild game populations. And it's it's to be continued.
yeah, just an ongoing thing. What does it mean? It means that there's a virus that can evolve because viruses evolve.
Yeah.
I mean, you brought up HIV/AIDS. That's speaking of a really challenging virus.
Yeah.
Because of the way that it replicates, it changes its DNA every time it replicates. I'm loosely speaking here, but it's changing itself every time.
Yeah.
And that's why
And it's easy to trace that way.
Yeah.
You can tell even if you're Freddie Mercury and sleep around with everybody you can find out who had this strand of AIDS and who gave it to who. You could find out exactly who it was. So, not that we want to delve into that.
Yeah.
But it's an ongoing story and to be continued. That's all.
Yeah. So this that comes out of Colorado, but I swear this road is a road here in the South Hills of Twin Falls. It just makes me think
they
of.
all look familiar, don't they?
It looks like Indian Springs Road that we have here to me. But anyway, public service announcement for the BLM in certain parts of Colorado are saying, hey, watch out for muddy roads. If it says closed, don't go on them. Same thing is here in Idaho, and there's certain roads that don't open up until May in the South Hills, and
because the mud here is terrible.
Yeah,
it's terrible. And if you drive on a muddy road, you're going to create ruts. Those ruts are going to get washed out and create bigger ruts and puddles, and it just really compounds the problem. So if a road's closed because it's all wet, Yeah, just don't take your truck on
I
them.
mean, we were talking about doing some yard work stuff, and I put the
Yeah.
brakes on because it was going to start raining, and it started raining earlier today.
While we
here.
were talking, yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, the soil here is great, unless it's wet or compacted.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, don't be jerk. Stay off the roads. You know, even up in the Boise foothills, they ask people, look, we understand you want to recreate, but
Yeah.
right now is not a time to be on a muddy trail.
Yeah, and if people don't adhere to that, then they'll just end up gating them and closing them off until they dry up a little bit.
Yeah.
So which is okay, but
But
then you have to wait until they open them, not wait until they're dry.
Not to mention the politics behind all that. But moving on.
Yeah.
Virginia will finally have Sunday hunting.
Yeah, Sunday. You couldn't hunt on public lands on a Sunday on the Holy Sabbath. Is that wild?
Weird.
You know, growing up, I don't know if you remember how many stores were closed in Helena, Montana on Sunday.
I don't remember.
All of them. There was like one store open growing up. Well, there was like a convenience store way down, and then there was a convenience store that we walked past on the way to church. But, I mean, everybody was closed. Albertsons was closed. Safeway, everybody was closed.
I don't remember that as much.
Wow.
The world was staying
different.
open more by the time I was young. I know in Idaho, things in the early 90s in the local area, things were more closed, but things have pushed to where it's not just that it's open Sunday now. It's, we can either open late or it's 24-hour service.
Yeah, 24/7. So you know what? That car wash on Blue Lakes?
Yeah.
Hey, good for you. Hey, Chick-fil-A, good for you. Take a day. We don't need to be spending money at restaurants every day of the week.
It sucks though because
I know.
A few times when I actually want to wash my car and I have a gift card for it, I'm like, it's a Sunday and I'm like, oh yeah, I should go wash. Oh, you're closed. Which I get it. It's not
That's
a big
okay.
deal.
You know what?
I think it's a healthy habit to give people a break.
I think so too. So I respect that, not from any religious standpoint, but just from a, hey man, I know we're all capitalists here, but you can start making money again in the morning.
We got to manage.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that was it. You couldn't hunt on public lands on Sunday.
Wow.
So it wasn't just me, a long time ago. It's the whole world is this understood in this way, in this 6-day work week or 6-day week. And the Sundays were saved for now. It's a thing in the South, you go to church, then you go and eat. They have to have the restaurants open. So I want bananas on my waffle.
I'm gonna clue this one in with a song reference. It was colder than a well digger's
ankles
in
Cut Bank, Montana. Some people call Cut Bank, Montana the coldest place in North America or the lower 48.
So, I think it was in junior high, or it was when I was a freshman in high school. One of the classes that I was taking, we looked at the coldest registered weather versus the warmest weather. So, of course, the warmest weather tends to always come out of Death Valley.
Right.
But the coldest at that time was registered in Cut Bank.
Yeah.
There might have been records changed since then because the extremes that we're starting to see in different places. So it's...
Yeah.
But Cut Bank, Montana, a cold place.
Cut Bank, Montana, a tough and cold place. Not only do they have... So the picture he's referring to, it'll be on our YouTube.
Yeah.
But the picture...
we haven't even mentioned that it's a picture. I was just giving... So there's a picture involved here. And so, and it's demonstrating something about the coldness of Cut Bank.
Yeah.
And it's almost cynical. Is that right? No, not cynical, but I was trying to throw in the word icicle with that, and it just didn't work. It's almost evil. Yeah, and icicle didn't. That word, I had the wrong word, but it's almost like it's evil. If it's going to be cold, and then it's going to do this with the cold, it's almost like the cold is trying to kill you. Anyway, I'm just putting a spin on it. Like, the icicles have a life of their own.
The wind blows so hard, and yet so constantly.
Yeah.
Those icicles are near horizontal.
Yeah, it's
They
ridiculous.
are closer to horizontal than they are vertical.
To the point that you could walk out of your house and poke your eyes out
You
on
could.
these things.
You
It
could.
is-
Somebody your height could, that's for sure.
It's evil, man.
Yeah. So on the eastern slope of the Rockies, you have, I think, the windiest. You probably don't remember a show called Punky Brewster.
Oh yeah.
Do you
Oh,
really?
yeah. Punky Brewster.
They
There was
had
a cartoon even
They
at
had
one point.
It takes place in Chicago, and they had a trivia question about where the windiest city is, because Chicago is known as the Windy City.
Yeah.
And so they asked the guy what the windiest city was, and he goes, "Oh, it was Punky Brewster's, I don't know, adopted dad, whatever
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is." He goes, "Oh, well, of course it's Chicago." And they go, "Sorry, nope, it's Great Falls, Montana." Yeah, everybody knows it's Great Falls, Montana. And then everybody had the conversation about, "Oh yeah, it's Great Falls. You didn't know?" So the windiest city, that eastern slope of the Rockies. You talk about Kansas on the eastern slope of Colorado.
Yeah.
You talk about the cities that are along the eastern slope of the Rockies, but in northern Montana, you're talking about Cut Bank, you're talking about Great Falls, you're talking about the Browning Indian Reservation, the east side of Glacier. It is cold, and the wind can howl. Now, are you familiar with the Chinook wind?
Kind of, yeah.
So a Chinook wind is a really, really super warm wind
Yeah.
that relative to the current temperature.
Yes.
And so I had a buddy in Montana, and he says, you get to work and it's 10 below. You're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, buddy, what's up?" He's like, "Hey, it's 30 degrees at my house." I'm like, "You're dumb. You live 15 miles away. How could it be 40 degrees warmer?"
Yeah.
And not 30 minutes later, the wind hits and the temperature skyrockets.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
And you're driving around with your windows down and stuff is melting everywhere. Yeah, it was just crazy. That's called a Chinook wind.
Yeah.
And that's what the Chinook helicopter is named after. The twin
okay.
rotor Chinook
Okay.
helicopter is named after this big warm wind.
Gotcha.
So I almost think that picture from Cut Bank is part of a Chinook wind, where it's so cold, but the wind is
Was warm enough to get things to melt. And,
yeah, and freeze things near horizontal.
And I think the record for temperature change was related to a Chinook wind in Colorado because that eastern mountain front, and it was like a 70-degree change in a 24-hour
Actually,
period.
it's in Montana. It's south of Great Falls, and it's 102 degrees in less than 24 hours. I have a book at home.
Okay.
I'll bring it next time.
pretty
You can Google it. You could GTS it right now.
Why would I do that?
I can't Google it. My phone's up there.
Anyway,
Anyways, that's what I remember is that the fastest 24-hour temperature change happened also on the eastern slope of the Rockies in Montana, and it was 102 degrees from 42 below to 60 above in
Yeah.
24 hours.
well, we lived through a really cold snap when the power went out.
yeah, back in the 80s.
Yeah, just
That was
it
a
was
decent cold snap.
minus 30 as the temperature,
Yeah,
negative 70 as
yeah.
the wind chill, and it just
That story still comes up on my Facebook feed every year because it's an anniversary. There was trains that popped off of a train and up on McDonald Pass outside on the Continental Divide outside
Yeah.
Helena and coasted back into town, picking up speed all the way until they ran into more cars in the yard in downtown Helena. And it knocked out power because power lines follow the rail line.
There's 90% of the houses at that time were on electric heat.
Yeah, including mom and dad, including
Yep,
our house.
yep.
And so we went out to Jane's house.
Yep.
She lived in a single wide trailer, so we just
But it had
loaded
gas
up.
heat.
That had gas heat, yeah. And we had electricity out there.
Oh, I don't
There
remember
was
that.
still electricity out there, yeah.
Okay.
But they just didn't have it in town. One of the only times anybody ever got off of school
Yeah. Well,
because we didn't have snow days.
My understanding was that they had closed school because of the cold snap for Thursday and Friday, and since it happened on a Friday morning, it just happened. That's
I don't recall.
I don't.
I don't
You know how
recall.
memory works.
I know every day that I ever went to school, I woke up wishing I didn't have to go to school. That's all I know. That's what I remember from school. Thank you, public school
Right on.
system.
Well, that's what's in the news. Next, we have Destination Elk.
Yeah. So there was some good stuff on Destination Elk this week.
Yeah.
The what happened? What do you remember? Refresh my memory.
Oh, who was it?
I know they filled a tag.
All I know is Newberg is really good at getting grouse.
He loves the grouse. Thank you, Randy. Thank you so much for loving grouse almost as much as you love elk.
Yeah.
It's such a sport. It is so fun. It is so great.
Just a dead shot on those birds,
Oh,
man.
it's so hard, but it's so fun.
Yeah.
It's such a great thing. I really love grouse.
And I forgot who got their elk, but it was a good shot that would just...
yeah, it was a frontal.
Yeah.
It was a frontal, and he went 80 yards down that hill.
Yeah.
Look, and I watched that shot because they replayed it, and I'm like,
oh, that's right, because they came up to that watering hole.
Yeah.
Oh man.
they're like, I don't know where that shot went.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't show an impact. It didn't look great to me.
Well, there was a replay. They did show it.
But I didn't see it.
Oh,
I mean,
it just happened so quick.
I didn't understand the physics of where that arrow went. Right? They show it so quick. I'm like, it looks like it hit him. Like, did it hit him to the right or the left of that front shoulder?
Just to the right of that front shoulder, I think.
Yeah.
Or no. It I don't remember. Honestly, don't.
I don't know. It was tough to follow that shot.
But I think the name of the game for that hunt, though, was just about patience. You know your area, you see the behavior of the animal, and you're going to let the animal determine what you do. And I thought that was a really good lesson because they're going to be bedded down. We need to watch for that animal's behavior and depending on what they do. So basically, the elk walked up to them.
Yes. But they were calling the whole time.
Yeah.
But they were patient. They waited long enough.
So just...
And they could see him from quite a ways out.
Makes me think of that situation where we just... The one opportunity that we really had last year where those bulls were coming down.
Yeah.
And we continued to pursue when we
probably should have just
realized
yeah.
should have just slowed down.
Right there in the lounge. Should have stayed in the lounge.
I would love to bring down something in the lounge.
Oh,
the images we have from the lounge anyway. We know they go there. So
all the time.
You take the lesson from that Destination Elk episode, and you just think of when we're those places that we know, you and I know. For particularly if you're ready for this one, the backyard.
Yeah.
The way that the elk go back and forth in the backyard. They just go back and forth.
They're there.
Because we went back several days and they're there, they're here versus there. And it's like, well, we just need to go. In fact, I would hypothesize, here's my hypothesis here. That was redundant. Anyway.
I will hypothesize my hypothesis now.
Yes.
Hypothetically.
In the backyard, where you pursued that elk, that you shared that story a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
To set up there and be patient and watch.
Yeah.
Watch for that. So A, hopefully find the animals, but B, get into the backyard, set up, because you'll be proximal, but you'll also be high.
Yes. I tried that.
Okay.
Alone. Remember one year I went in, just a couple years ago, I think it was 2019. I went in Labor Day weekend, and I hiked up to that ridge that's between the kitchen and the backyard. Mm-hmm. Remember I told you I packed up there? Because I can glass.
That's right.
I can glass from up there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was so hot.
Yeah, that's...
I put my extra blanket over my tent for shade and just hid in the tent. It was so hot.
Depending on what part of the month you're in, that can be a really scorched time.
Yeah. Well, Labor Day weekend, it doesn't depend on what time of the month. It just depends on what the weather is.
There's an old fire pit up there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
On that ridge somewhere.
Yeah, it's a nice ridge, and you can see a lot from every direction. Yeah. And the elk I saw from there were so high. They were higher than me. They were, where we ran into them in the backyard?
Yeah. And
way higher than that. Way higher than that.
Well, that's the first time I saw elk were higher than when we ran into them over there in the backyard.
Oh, really?
Because there's a wallow up high.
Yeah.
And so up above where we saw them that one time. Anyway, but that's a food for thought. We'll see.
So a couple things I got from Destination Elk. Donnie and Corey Jacobson. I really like those guys. They set up what they called like a triangulation. Do you remember? They said, let's triangulate this guy. They had a bull that wouldn't really move. And so Corey Jacobson went right and Donnie went left. And they started bugling to each other. Like, hey, when I talk, you do this, you do this. They have a system that gets the other elk engaged. Mm-hmm. And he got close. He didn't get close enough for a shot,
Okay.
But he got close. So I don't know if you remember that from the episode.
I don't
But
remember
real
that.
quick, he goes, and we've tried that tactic before, unsuccessfully. But it's nice to see another group of really experienced
absolutely.
hunters using that tactic, going, "Hey, let's just separate far enough to talk to each other
Yes.
and see if we can't get the elk to engage that way." Because now they both have an opportunity to shoot.
Yeah. Except what's the name?
Donnie already got it.
Yeah.
Donnie already got his, but it would give us
Yeah.
an opportunity to shoot each of
Yeah.
us. So
And we stumbled across something like that where I went high and you went low.
yes,
And then the elk came out, but we weren't talking. So we're getting better every year in terms of figuring some things out. Because if we could, you think about what you learned from others and you go, well, how would you take that situation, do different? So hopefully we're just a little bit more savvy in the field this fall.
yeah, it was a good setup, and remembering setup styles and techniques have to be very liquid. Have to adapt to terrain and wind.
Yeah.
Is a really big deal. And then there was one more piece that I picked up on in Destination Elk, and that was an alarm bark.
Oh yeah.
The alarm. It's just a single bark. Yeah, but it's. I don't want to say it's an alarm.
It's just a bark.
It's just a bark, but
it's a communication of some sort that
Right.
change that but they change their behavior when that bark happens.
Right. So I've experienced it twice in recent past at really close quarters. Once in 2021, and when was the last time? Gosh, 2020. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was right. I was alone both times,
I was alone when it happened for me on a couple times.
and I saw it on TikTok, so that counts. But when I hear it, so I'm going through the woods pretending to be an elk. I'm calling, but something isn't right about either what I'm saying or the scent I'm giving off, or they've seen me. Something's happened. So I feel like that alarm bark is like, I know you're there. You think you're an elk. Show yourself. That's what that bark feels like. And I've seen it from bulls, and I used to think it was bulls only, because the first time it happened to me, it was a spike. And he was really curious about me, but he was barking. Like just single barks. Really interesting. And I saw, and then this last in 2021, it was a cow. Huh. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, oh good, there's a bull. I don't think it was a bull. I think it was that cow going, listen, you say you're an elk. Show me. Show me you're an elk. Because I really don't feel like running around right now. So anyways, that's what I feel like they're communicating. Any notes on that? Anything you think? What is that single alarm bark from an elk? What are they saying? What are they trying to communicate?
Because the first time I experienced it, I was on Morning Ridge. I had staked out under that tree to look at the Butt Crack Ridge, which is an interesting ridge that kind of has a middle section that looks, anyway, put it together. But I'm not going to tell you who did, but I didn't name it.
Okay.
Anyway, so
I named it, and as soon as I did, my brother goes, "Oh yeah, I get that. Yeah,
I'm sure.
You did.
I don't remember.
You did.
Actually.
You were like, let's call that the butt crack. That works. That is like the most brilliant thing ever. We're moving on.
Anyway,
you acknowledge my brilliance. I'm thankful for that.
You're welcome. So I'm staring at that. I'm looking at that particular ridge. And there's a tree line on that ridge, and it's common to see elk kind of pop up out of this little
it is
area. And so I was just waiting to see what would show up, and it turns out that they were there, but they came down lower on the ridge. And so by the time I got up there, and so it's roughly about an hour before the sun goes down. And so I decide I'm going to make my way over to them and on the adjacent ridge. And so I get to the adjacent ridge. They're right below me, probably 80 yards from them.
Oh, wow.
80 to 90 yards. I mean, that was pretty close.
Nice.
But up the hill, a cow comes over, and she sees me.
Yeah.
And so she's just there, and she's just holding steady. She's just staring straight at me. And the other elk seem oblivious to anything. But this cow, she's just staring me down. So I'm like, well, that sucks. And out of nowhere, because I just stayed still. I just hung out, trying to wait out this cow. The cow eventually, I think, turns around and goes back when she came. That's it.
Okay.
But then I heard the bark. And as soon as I heard the bark, all elk. There was like 6 or 7 of them. Went down the ravine and out of sight into the trees. They left.
Wow.
It was just that whoop, and they gone. I was like, well, that was weird.
So that would be more like an alarm.
Yeah.
When I've had them barking at me, they'll bark 4 or 5 times. They'll keep their distance. They know I'm there, but they will still bark. That's interesting.
Yeah. He just did the one thing. It was clearly him. I think he was a spike maybe. I actually don't remember, but
okay.
Yeah, it was just, so I've been watching for that to see if I can get more data. I've only had a couple times though, but there's something there's a communication factor with that to me suggests that we need to start moving. But they weren't spooked. He's just like, let's go.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the wind swirled maybe, and he's like, I don't like what I'm smelling.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and go somewhere else, ladies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
safety in flight.
Yeah.
Always.
So that kind of, in a way, our conversation piggybacks off of Destination Elk, but we could consider those trail tales because really, with the 5. Yeah, we're just literally hit the hour when I turned around.
Yeah,
and so the final thing we have on the list really is Immortal Irishman.
The Immortal Irishman, and it being, I need to move my book segments to another segment of TikTok or something. I just need to start a fire and just tell the story of the books I read because I love to read books about the West. And when I saw a book about Thomas Francis Meagher, and his name is spelled Maughar or something. It looks like meager. I had a friend who was from Meagher County.
Okay,
you've been to Meagher County? It's White Sulphur Springs.
Yeah,
and then he told me that there was a general in front of the Capitol on a horse. And that's who it was named after, Thomas Francis Meagher. So when I see a book by Timothy Egan, I've read 2 other books by Timothy Egan, and when you find a good author, you like, yeah, I'll read anything that guy writes.
Sure.
He wrote The Big Burn, Teddy Roosevelt and the Fire That Saved America, and he wrote The Worst Hard Time about the Dust Bowl in Oklahoma.
Okay.
Oh, and he won book awards. I think it won the National Book Award. It's so good. He wrote another book called The Immortal Irishman. And when we talk about Butte Montana is the most Irish city in all of America per capita. Yeah, it is.
Would you say that Butte is the equivalent for Irishman, that Boise is equivalent for the
Basque?
The Basque.
I don't know. The Basque as a population subset of America isn't that big, and the Irish subset of America is.
Okay, that's fair.
So I really don't know. So there's really not a lot of argument. Hey, where's the Basque capital? where is the Irish capital? And most people would just say Boston. But if you want a great read, the Immortal Irishman. Sorry, I was quoting another book. The Immortal Irishman by Timothy Egan talks about Thomas Francis Meagher, how he came up as an excellent speaker in Ireland, and was so good at talking against the crown, he was banished. He ended up being banished to Tasmania. Escaped Tasmania, right. Comes up to America, fights in the Civil War. Not just as a commander. He led his men. He led his men into battle. And back then, they were like, hey, this is the Irish troop. These are the Italian troop. These are the German troop. Yeah. He led the Irish troop. He didn't just command. He led them, expecting to die. And he didn't. He just wanted to instill, hey, we are fighting as Union soldiers against the oppression. He, as being an Irishman, the number one thing is you got to hate the British. There's 800 years of hating the British in their blood. And the Irish curse, the glass of Guinness I just finished, the Irish curse is if the Irish revisited the sins of the British back on the British, they would be the bad guys. So you know what? We'll just have a pint. That's the Irish curse. You can't, it's a lose-lose.
Yeah.
It was so many bad things were done to the Irish by the British. I mean, 800 years worth, and every Irishman knows it. And coming out west, but one of the things, how this ties into out west in Montana is a couple of things, and that is Thomas Francis Meagher knew very intimately the character of Irishmen, and he knew they were tough. They were so tough. he came of it during the famine. He came of age during the famine, and he knew how tough the Irish were. And when he sees a land like Montana, he goes, you gotta be tough to live here. You just gotta be. What a great place for the Irishman. Maybe when it becomes a state, he was actually appointed the first territorial governor of the territory of Montana by Abraham Lincoln personally. He actually asked for Idaho. He goes, I just want to get out of here. He asked for Idaho. He says, oh, sorry, Idaho's taken. Would you like Montana? When he gets to Montana, he sees how tough you have to be to live there. And he says, oh, this is great. Maybe we could name it New Ireland, right? You had Nova Scotia. That's New Scotland.
Yeah.
Why not New Ireland? Why Montana? He wanted to make the name of Montana New Ireland. So anyways, it's a great book. If you're into Irish history, you got to read Timothy Egan's The Immortal Irishman. If you like the West, if you like Montana, man, it is a fantastic read.
Pardon the expression, but isn't this man immortalized in a statue in front of the State House?
He is. Every time you see the Montana State Capitol, on the front lawn, he was so popular back then. There are more ties in. I wish I had time to delve more into this story, and maybe I will on a different YouTube clip or a different TikTok. But oh my gosh, it's just one of my favorite stories. And anytime you see imagery of the Montana State Capitol, you will see the Immortal Irishman in front of it.
Yep.
Thomas Francis Marr on his horse with his sword in hand, leading his men to fight against the oppression and against slavery as a Union general. And it's a fantastic piece of Montana history. And growing up in Helena, our dad worked 3 blocks away at the Montana State Library for 27 years. Yep. We grew up in the shadow of that statue.
Yes, we did.
And I didn't know anything about Thomas Francis Marr until I read that book.
I didn't either until you told me about the book you read, which doesn't make me look very good. But
if you love a good story, it's such a fantastic true story.
But it's kind of like, knowing this and thinking about how impressionable that statue is.
Yeah.
To have a memory of that statue, not knowing anything about it, but just thinking it was really cool. I think it's
grand. It's huge.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to have the story to go with it now, but it's an impressive thing. So if you're ever in Helena, stop by the State House. Is that the right thing to think? The Capitol building?
The State Capitol, the State House, the State building,
whatever.
sure.
So anyway.
There's different colloquialisms. We always called it the State Capitol.
Yeah.
So, and it's up on the hill. You can see it from almost anywhere in town. I have drone footage from a few years ago of it. Because the big green mountains in the background. It's a beautiful building. I miss Helena. It's a great place. And the story of Thomas Francis Marr. If you're feeling Irish, I'm not Irish, but I tell people I identify as Irish. And the story of Thomas Francis Marr helps me do that probably more than any other Irish I've read about or I've read. Yep. So, anyways. That's the story from out west, a book from out west. You want to read it, and you should. If you're going on a trip, man, it's captivating. You'll love it.
Right on. Well, that brings us to an end for today. It. That's episode 11 on the books. On the books. That's a weird. I'm pretty sure I lost a friend recently because I tried too hard on a joke.
Oh,
I'm not going to tell the joke here because I don't want to lose any more friends. Anyway.
Wow. Okay, that's tough.
It's not really true, but it's
all of the friends I've lost to bad jokes. I'll be honest with you.
It was just not a good joke.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny now, but you can't
I think the joke is that I keep losing friends. That's anyway.
That's funny. All right. You told me plenty of bad jokes, and I'm not like, can I divorce my brother? Anyway, no need. Have a great week. We'll be back here. We'll be back here next week. Elk Season episode number 12.
Yeah, be well. Stay awesome. Cheers.
Bye.